So today I wanted to talk a little bit about creativity and what that means to me, to be creative. Now that I have a YouTube channel and I have several blogs that I write on, I'm considered a creative, someone who creates works on a daily basis in video and writing and photography. So creativity has become a huge part of my life, starting earlier this year when I opened my online store, Hey Red Shop, where I sell vintage, handmade, and secondhand goods. It's my whole passion project starting earlier this year, and I have a blog attached to it and another blog called Eating Films, where I talk about all things film, and this YouTube channel. There were a lot of areas that were left blank, pretty much blank for me to fill. For example, all of the copy on the Hey Red Shop website, including the blog, the product descriptions, everything I had to come up with on my own, which is great in a way for me because it forced me to keep my creativity flowing and energized so that I could keep pace with the growth of my shop. So that got me into writing on a regular basis, which is my original field of study, creative writing. So later on, after I had my website set up and it could receive orders, I had the shipping all worked out. So I decided to create a blog to accompany the shop. And the blog is more of a lifestyle kind of thing where I talk about buying secondhand, environmental issues that I see my potential customer having buying secondhand, and adding my 2 cents as an entrepreneur and as a customer. So I will say, before I started the store, I very rarely did creative things. Like, I very rarely did something for the enjoyment of doing the thing or creating something. And that was very different for me because years prior to that, in my childhood and adolescence and throughout college, I was a very creative person. I was someone who liked to create things and write with the idea that it didn't matter if anyone saw it or if anyone acknowledged it. I created it, and that was satisfaction enough for me. And then my priorities shifted outside of college, and I was more career oriented and focused. Until earlier this year, when I became a photographer, I became a copywriter, and I became a blogger, and now a YouTuber. And all of this happened within the course of a year. So creativity for me is something that has always sort of been there. Even when I was a little kid, I used to get those like really big, huge craft books and DIY books from the library, and they would show you how to make stuff out of paper mache, or show you how to make decorations, or how to make toys and things like that. And I always loved to just make things all the time. And when I was kind of reevaluating at the end of 2019, I was reevaluating what my priorities were and my career, where I saw it going and where I saw it not going. And I decided to make some very drastic changes in my life. And now a lot of the outlets that I use to be creative are the result of those decisions. I did not mean for this video to get quite this deep, but basically energizing my creativity is using it, is acknowledging, hey, this is a creative impulse to for example, take photos around the city. So I was driving through this like really artistic part of the city, had these like really old buildings with this like gorgeous architecture and this really cool graffiti, and I decided to come back another day and just take photos, just walk around, take photos, and kind of familiarize myself more with my new city. And when I originally took them, it was just to practice photography outside in public, and to get a feel for framing and what am I trying to tell something with my photographs. So there were some ideas that I had in mind before I went out, but there wasn't a strict goal in mind for this exercise. So I went out, took the photos, came back, and then I got into the editing process, and that opens up a whole new world of creativity, just editing color and hue and saturation and things like that. So being creative can kind of work in on itself when you get started. And after I had the photos, I realized, hey, I could use these in my Hey Red Shop blog. I could use them in my Eating Films blog. I could use them in my YouTube video. I could use them in so many other ways. And that is a side effect of just following this creative impulse, is now I have something tangible from this exercise that I can use in so many different ways. That has been the main goal of this year for me, is to just try and see what happens. Oh, someone has probably already done a YouTube video on creativity. Yeah, that's true. Somebody probably already has. But are they someone like me who is over 30, who is starting a whole new phase of their life, and someone who has just started their own online business, solo, you know, and your perspective matters. So one way that my creativity starts going is when I recognize a creative idea. Sometimes, you know, you have just ideas that float around, and then there's one in particular that is like highlighted a little bit more than the other ideas. Those are the ideas that I acknowledge and I start to make moves with, where I'll make a note of it and I'll come back to it and kind of work the idea a bit more, work out the logistics of an idea, and then just attempt to complete it. I'm in the beginning stages of living more creatively. I started my online store in February of this year, and I think the blog I started in September of this year. So I've only been running these outlets like for a few months. So right now I'm feeling pretty positive, pretty energized. I'm making habits that I hope will be sustainable in the long run, because I have, you know, like many of you guys, seen videos on creative burnout. This is such an exciting time in my life, and I want to keep documenting it so that I can learn from my mistakes, so that I can celebrate in my accomplishments, and so that I can connect with, you know, other people who may be going through the same thing or something similar as me, or even people who aren't. So if you want to check out the shop or any of my blogs, I've linked them all in the description below. And I hope you guys are having a lovely day today, and that things are going well for you, and I'll talk to you guys next time.